Carl, you might also just start off, maybe get some ideas going about the different types of presentations that you do. Like this morning is different than this afternoon, and talk about some of the things and how this thing is developed for you.
Okay. Well, I think the music is a nice way to convey messages that need to be conveyed and are frequently conveyed in other media. It's not a substitute for that. We're dealing with very serious issues. It doesn't mean we have to be serious all the time to get our points across, but these issues are serious, and I don't want to minimize that importance. We need good science. And if I can craft songs or other ways to disseminate information, using good science, then I'm doing my job, I think. And music is one medium to do this. I think just being able to communicate, to be willing to work with a variety of different audiences is very important as well. I teach a graduate course in communication skills for our first-year food science graduate students, and I have them do mock television interviews. I have them write news releases. Sometimes we have them develop something that they would present for a first grade class to get them out of their comfort zone, which is, here's the research that I need to do, here's all the things I have to do in the lab, now I publish it, now they hand me this piece of paper and I move on my way. Because I think once they leave the university setting, they're going to really need those communication skills, or at least the people that I've talked to that seem to be the best communicators seem to be doing really, really well in their careers. And I think that's really important. We have a real challenge in academia, I think. I like to think that, to make a broad generality, we've lost a generation of presenters because PowerPoint emerged, and PowerPoint emerged without, in many cases, a lot of guidelines as to how that should be used. So it is very convenient for lots of people to give talks and to put as much information as they possibly can, and to distribute the slides ahead of time, and then to read the slides, and then dismiss the class. And I'm worried that our current group of students, particularly those attending large schools where we have large class sizes, will be doing a lot of the same things, and they will emulate those who taught them, and we can be losing a generation of presenters that way. And that's particularly important when we realize that now with the new media that's out there, podcasts and YouTube videos and everything else, I think everybody needs to appreciate that that's going to be the way everything is going to be communicated. I think at the symposium this morning, the point came up, well, people don't read white papers anymore, and that's what we as scientists love to do. We love to get into the white paper and really get all that information and have a really tight, beautiful policy analysis. But we forget then how to take that information and to get it out. I mean, I say that in a broad generalization. There are thousands of really, really great communicators out there, and I admire them. Some people whose views I might disagree with, but who are also very, very skilled at getting their message across, and you can learn from everybody. So that's part of my philosophy, I think. So, yes.
Can you give us your view of the Prop 37 in your state, and how do you think the vote's going to come out?
Well, I'm not going to guess how the vote's coming out. I've seen some polling that shows it's pretty close right now. But we're still, 3 weeks from the election, so a lot can happen in that time point. I do, personally, as a toxicologist, I don't see the real value to public health in warning people that genetically modified organisms might be present in their foods. I think we're in the state of California. We also have Proposition 65, which is basically a warning of anything that the state of California deems to be a carcinogen or a reproductive hazard. And so now you can go to restaurants, go to hair salons, other places, and you will see the warnings that say the state of California, has identified these chemicals that might be used here. And I'm not sure that anybody really, pays attention to those warnings anymore. So I do think, even if consumer right to know is major component there. I don't think in practice it's going to have much of an implication if it passes in terms of, you know, consumers making different decisions based upon the label. But, you know, it's democracy, and this is how our system works in California, and if it becomes law, it becomes law, and then we deal with that. I remember when Proposition 65 was passed, I was just finishing my doctorate, and kind of looked over a few other people, and we said, well, we will rename it the Continuing Employment Act of Lawyers and Toxicologists as well, because there's certainly an industry for that. So we'll see. I mean, it does bring this to the debate. I think as a communicator, I think that's great. People are at least talking about the issues, and you know, it's contentious, obviously, but at the same time, it does bring this to the debate. So it gives the proponents of biotechnology a forum to be able to say what they want to say. A lot of times that's a problem. You know, in science, nobody cares. You know, it's too complicated. We're not that interested in this. So in that regard, it's really, you know, it's a good opportunity to get information out and to test, you know, your communication strategies as well. Are you reaching the right audience? Do you have the right message? Or audiences, messages, because there's, you know, no one audience out there.
Carl, if you were going to take your messages that are on your CD that we gave out this morning, how should we put those out more broadly to the public and get them to see them? Because you've got to know, you know, to look for you and look for them. Where should we be putting those? What kind of organizations might we try to get to use your information more? What are your thoughts? How would you like to see it?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question, John. You know, you can give things to people. That doesn't mean they'll use them or share them, because everybody has, you know, their own interests and constraints on their time and energy. But I do think, you know, having music in a pretty user-friendly mode means it can be shared by a lot of folks. I mean, I think what we're seeing now with viral videos and other things is that, you know, you find something, it will, if it is projected at the right level and it's going to have an impact, it's going to go real fast and different people are going to use it. You know, I think there's an advantage in the fact that we're talking about food and everybody eats. So, you know, everybody has some experience or interest in food safety. And if we can find a way to make it educational as well as fun and less formal, I think that's a great way to do it. But you know, clearly, I think, you know, schools are a great place to go. Not all of my songs are directed just to you know, just to kids. For example, the biotechnology song I did today was pitched at a higher level than the veggie song or the wash your hands song. But you know, kids are certainly an important group. The people who, you know, I think in the medical community, I think there's a real missing area there. Traditionally in agriculture, we don't have those really good connections directly to the medical community. People in internal medicine who deal with gastroenteritis and other issues all the time. So I've struggled actually myself to try to get some inroads there for them to take that more seriously and use that as a way. But I think that's important. If you can get it into the medical profession, then you know, those who are practicing in the medical profession have their ability of patients and clients and colleagues, and you know, there's a great opportunity to share with that as well. The public health community has been really quite responsive to the music. I've given a lot of talks at public health and environmental health conferences, and these are the people who are often on the front lines dealing with a lot of infectious disease issues. So they really get it, and they can appreciate it. I think the nursing community, I think, is an area that would be ripe for outreach as well. I think within food and agriculture, chemical industries, you know, people know about it. It may not be their message, so there might be some reluctance to communicate it, because a lot of times these groups want to have as much control as they can about a particular message. You know, if you want to be affiliated with somebody else's message, then all the baggage that organization brings comes along as well. So you know, it's complicated, but I think you know, the other thing is to never assume that people have heard it and aren't interested anymore, because you're turning over new audiences all the time. So take that same approach and get it out. Put a different song out here or there. I think that's a good way to go. Now I say that, and I haven't updated my website in a few years now, and I haven't been writing any new songs, so it's difficult, but it illustrates the challenges in trying to, trying to prioritize what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and who you want to reach.
If you had a food company that was to sponsor, putting this out as through some media to get more out, of course they'd want to put their logo on it. Does that give you a problem with UC Davis and trying to work with what you've got and a company sponsorship type thing?
Well, I mean, it's an interesting question, and one thing I've done through my entire career has been to do my work in the absence of any industry or company funding. So I've sought federal dollars, smaller grants here and there, but I haven't been accepting any industry funding for anything that I do. So it's there are some interesting questions. It's not that other colleagues of mine don't work that way, but I think it's something that I've done through my career to hopefully enhance my credibility with decision makers, representatives of the media, and others. So there can be some gray areas there, but if people want to disseminate the information that you've developed, then I think that's great, as long as there's not an implicit endorsement of a particular product.
With the STEM initiatives, there seems to be, I know I have several friends and colleagues who have actually basically, they're scientists, one in astronomy, Pamela Gay, who has basically funded her career on outreach, doing outreach stuff. Have you looked into any of the new, with the new legislation on STEM, have you looked into any of that? Are there any sources that are available for you?
It's a good question, Alan. I think that's something I have been looking at. I was really inspired by Edie's comments today as well. I mean, this program seems to be moving very, very fast, and I think there are a lot of opportunities. And I'm in a position in my career now where I'm really trying to think, what do I want to do next? What am I really excited about and passionate about? And certainly using these great networks that are already established and finding a way to gain entry into those to enhance the messages that I'm trying to develop is a great way. So certainly just finding myself listening to Edie talk this morning, I'm thinking, okay, we need to talk, we need to pursue this. I think there's some great opportunities there. Excellent synergy.
You teach your students each year about communications, and you've been in this profession for a while, and technology has increased. What are you learning from your students that has helped you?
They don't read newspapers. They don't watch television. I mean, the way that people have traditionally watched that. Their lives are, on their phones now. And if you're not able to reach them through their phone, you're not going to be able to reach them, I think. And I see, real advantage to that in terms of the ease of getting information out, should you be able to be successful doing that. I also, maybe as a more traditionalist, I worry that things are a little too superficial that way, and there needs to be a little more focus on broader depth in terms of understanding a lot of these issues. But it is really, it's a real reality check for me when I talk to them or I watch them interact. When we do mock television interviews, I say, well, what interviews have you seen on TV? Oh, I don't have TV. I don't watch TV. I get it on Hulu, or I get this or that. Or, they're watching the shows, but it's all on their pads or their phones or their laptops now. So it's different, and it clearly illustrates a challenge. Communication is moving so quickly now, and there's so many changes, and we need to keep up. I mean, I need to get started and develop a Twitter presence, and I have resisted that. I just, I still view Twitter more as, sort of traditionally as, oh, I'm washing my hands now. Oh, now I'm walking across the street. People really just don't care about that detail, but clearly, that is the way that information is getting out and moving. I think the tracking of Twitter activity as an indicator of what's happening in society is, that's really emerged as well. So we might be reluctant in embracing this, but it's clear that we need to, or we're going to be a dying breed.
Is there still a place for those white papers that we pronounced dead a little while ago? You know what I mean? Do you still work hard on those too? I see all the media work you're doing and teaching kids the communications classes and so on. But what about those white papers where there's intense research, peer review, and the ones that are really ground out? Do they have a presence in here?
Yeah, Dan, that's a good question. Absolutely, there is. We, as scientists, our obligation is to provide the best science we can, to tell what we know, what we don't know, what we think it means, get the best minds in the business to look at it, to share divergent views if we need to, but to show where the issues are. And that there's no substitute for that. And I do think in terms of moving forward with respect to legislation or regulatory priorities and things, all of that information is important. When I talk with my colleagues at either in the legislative arena or in the regulatory branches, these people know detail. They know these issues inside and out. And anybody that's involved in those issues, if you want to be able to work with them, you've got to demonstrate that you know that too. So clearly that has to occur. At the same time, though, public opinion will percolate, and there'll be things that you need to be aware of, and those papers are not going to be too successful there. But at the same time, if you can distill bits and pieces of some of these things, provide those who want to follow up with more information those opportunities, I think that's a good way to go. Al?
At major universities, there's a great opportunity because every university has a communications department and they have the STEM departments. What have you seen in cross-fertilization, such as joint appointments of the faculty in the STEM departments and the faculty in the communications department? Have you seen any movement in that direction?
Well, I can speak only from my experiences at UC Davis, and I don't think that's had really, we haven't seen those joint collaborations. I think a lot of the focus at our institution is to get the best and brightest researchers and to find in the sciences at least, and to make sure that they're going to be well-funded and doing cutting-edge research that is going to put our university on the map. And I'm surrounded with very talented faculty, but it doesn't mean that a major component of their activity is going to be STEM-type activities, because we can only do so much. So I do think it's a real challenge, and I think the pendulum swings sometimes. Right now, I think the focus is really extramural funding, which is getting tighter and tighter, and that is the barometer of success for a lot of folks at the university. Service, involvement, engagement in issues of more societal interest and popular interest. I don't think we're seeing the same amount, but I think the pendulum swings both ways, and that will change too.
Do you have an appointment in the communications department?
I don't. My appointment is all within the food science and technology department. So, but it's I think it is really it's really an individual decision. I don't want to speak badly of my colleagues, because I have some colleagues who are just absolutely phenomenal communicators who reach out and do wonderful, innovative things, and they're so effective and they know what they're doing. I have no idea how they can find time to do that in addition to their teaching and their research and everything in their professional activities. So there are brilliant minds out there, but usually it's that decision to engage in the outreach is is an internal decision, one that that person has said, this is what I want to do. But that's not a necessity in at least at my institution right now. It's a matter of priorities. Yes.
One last question, Carl. For those of us who work in the food chain, I'll call it, we're in agribusiness, we're close to growers, maybe not as close to customers and consumers, but what would be your challenge or advice to us with respect to communicating about the good work that we do, but maybe we only know about it? What should we do?
Well, I do think, Barb, one of the groups that can be most influential are the grower groups. The farmers that are making those decisions, that have such a sophisticated operation that those unfamiliar with agriculture may just not appreciate at all. They're so busy that it's hard to get them involved. But when I've been on panels with farmers who will explain, here are the various things I have to deal with when I make the decision. When do I plant? What do I plant? How do I plant it? How do I control for this particular pest? Is it okay to lose a certain amount of the crop? When do I do this? What are my options for pest control? How much does it cost? What is the record keeping? What do I do about my workers? It's a very, very complicated question. But when a grower is saying that and then telling you at the same time that he or she may be eating that food that's produced, on their farm, then that is a really, really strong message. We get away from, no, that's too toxic. No, it's not going to bother you at all. Or, this is a red light food. No, you should eat this instead. Those sort of polar arguments don't really, dissuade anybody who's already got their point of view. But when you can give them some new information and a new perspective from somebody who is trusted and who is, runs a sophisticated operation that's very complicated, and you can illustrate that, I think that that's really valuable. I mean, the example that John brought up, and I spoke with the Iowa Ag Secretary a bit in passing as well. I mean, one of the major reasons that, as I understand it, that that the corn losses were not greater was because of the tillage approach. Now you're not losing so much soil now. So what allows you to have less tillage? Are there certain herbicides that you can use that you don't have to plow the fields with? I mean, these are very complicated issues, but I think if they are presented by people who are directly involved, not seen as somebody who is selling a product, but somebody who is using a product, and here's why they're using that product, I think that can be very effective. And I also think, within the industries, and you've heard me say this before, but I think within the industries, I would love to see more bench scientists getting up and talking about what they do. I think that's really important. If you want to communicate, I think you need to put a face on the people who are doing the work. Your people that are working in your organizations are working there because they believe in what they're doing, and they had a tremendous amount of training that allows them to do what it is that they're doing now. And yet, those are voices we don't hear very much. We often hear somebody from the communications department, saying something that's been vetted throughout the process. Now, of course, I work in academia, so it's really easy. I'm not a business person, so I can say that. And I don't know how things work in your industry, but from my perspective, if it's possible to personalize the people who are working for your organization, I think it's going to make a big difference in terms of giving them the credibility that they need to provide a message. A whole bunch of different people providing the same message, and I'm going to believe that person, not believe that person, I'm going to believe that person, that person, no way, oh yeah, I absolutely believe that person. It's the same message, but personalizing is very important.
Carl, thank you for taking this extra time.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I know you got to travel to Ames and do another seminar up there this afternoon, so we're glad we're keeping you busy while you're here.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. Again, it's
have a
real
great
pleasure.
Have a great day and a great trip.